Well, one thing that is not so well known, I mean, Estonia has been very famous for what we have already talked, but the political transition and the transition towards a modern society must have been a challenge, and we don't know very much about other important changes. For example, how has been the evolution of the legal system? Russia, or Soviet Union, as far as I can recall, was not necessarily a rule of law haven, and so how could you, in this, which I understand that now you have a court system that works, and this is something that, in a way, Estonia and the Latin Americans we share, is that we have a collapsed legal system. So maybe we can use some of your insights into this.
That has been one of the biggest challenges, because without rule of law, the market economy just doesn't function. When you're not having the rule of law and the working and independent courts, then your property is not protected. And when your property is not protected and property relation not clear, then again it's very hard to have the really functional market economy. That's clear. And this is very easy to say, very hard to do, because all reforms in the area of rule of law, they take time. You just couldn't say, tomorrow I will go to the rule of law and that's it. Because the court system needs training, the charges need training. It's a very time-consuming process. So which means that you must really prioritize this project. You must really be very aware that this is one of the most important things to do. For the politicians, for the public, it's most boring question. Why do waste your time with such a reform of the court system, change the charges? So it doesn't bring the real results immediately.
It's not a short-run game.
Exactly. But at the same time, that's especially important, maybe by this reason, to concentrate very much on this, because without this, at the end, we will not get the functional market economy. And in Russia, of course, this has been one of the reasons for Russian failures and Russian problems, that this is one thing what is not done. Or we can say today in Russia, there is really a Russian saying rule of law, but I can add the name of the law is Putin.
It's Putin's law.
Putin's law. So that's
before the Soviet Union. Do you have a legal tradition linked to the Anglo-Saxon?
No, we had also the German system. So what we did, we restored our legal system and all the procedures which we had till the Estonian occupation. Estonia was a free country till it was occupied 1940. So we had all our laws, the system, the court system. Of course, it was absolutely destroyed, absolutely ruined. All the charges nearly which worked in the independent Estonia, they were just killed or sent to the Gulag. So we didn't have any traditions. But it was nevertheless the memory somewhere. And it helped us very much when we started to restore it, because the people, maybe only the older generation, but they knew that such a thing existed. In Russia, of course, it has been harder, because there has been really never been the rule of law.
And this new legal system, which is functional and is helping to deal with the problem of, which was probably the most common denominator of the Soviet Union era, which is corruption.
Corruption, yes.
What else have you done in order to cope with corruption?
I think not.
The legal system is
one very important.
But it's not sufficient.
I absolutely agree, because when you think that it can work automatically, then it's wrong. Again, the fight against the corruption is one of the other priorities what in transition every government must follow. So the first rule in this, first of all, not become corrupted yourself. The second rule is sack everybody around you who becomes corrupted. That's two very simple rules, but that's not enough either. I think the most effective, we of course have launched a very large program of anti-corruption fight, and there are a lot of technical things we can do, but the most important part of fighting the corruption down, except the legal system, which is very important, is actually the economic reforms. When you introduce the liberal economical system, and when you decrease the size of government, you will automatically fight the corruption down, because you are not giving possibilities for the corruption anymore. When you are cutting all these licensing, registers, have a huge amount of papers what the people must fulfill, go to the one bureaucrat to another, then it automatically, you will cut a lot of possibilities for corruption. And also liberal reforms, privatization of economy, all of them help enormously, because lots of corruption are coming from such a wasted system. We are not paying subsidies to nobody. Then it's no base for corruption, because they know, all of them know that they couldn't get any privileges, and so on, because that's how the basis where the corruption situation occurs. And when you really liberalize your economy, when you're running the liberal market economy, the possibilities for the corruption will be significantly diminished. I think this is one important aspect in fighting down the corruption, but must be always remembered.
How privatized have you taken the public services, for example? How?
I think we're in Estonia, nearly everything is privatized, so we are moved very radically in all these areas. So it's mostly done.
Have you tried it? Some people say also that in some government services, then you may not be able to privatize, but they are sort of monopolies, like driving licenses. There's been people that have suggested that what we should have is break the monopoly by allowing more than one people to compete granting these services. Have you a pioneer in it?
Well, we are not pioneers in the driving licenses, but maybe we are now trying to develop the same systems in some social security, in police work, in the prisons, in the healthcare, in education. So that's moving actually in different areas where the services are moved to be taken care of by the private companies.